Hey, everybody out there, Real Dialogue. Guess what? Today we get to go to the Magic Beach. Yes, we're going to the beach with author Alison Lester and also director Robert Connolly together talking about this new film that's coming out to cinemas this week. So I look forward to talking to you about the Magic Beach. Looking at this book, this beloved book, one that's been celebrated over the years, and it's multi-generational as far as its impact on not only the nation but also so many different lives. And so I'm very thankful to be able to kind of talk about it. And so, Alison, specifically for you, what would you say to parents about the value of imagination in their children's lives? Because I think that that's what this really touches on, not only in the book but also this beautiful expression within the film. That I'd love to be able to hear kind of what your thoughts are on imagination.
Well, I just think it's kind of everything, really. And I've got grandchildren too, and often when I'm with them, I love just listening to them playing. And it's so often, like they've got the Barbies here and the horses here, and I go down and go, what's happening? Oh, the horses are having a fight, and they've told the Barbies they've got to go here. Like they just have all this stuff in their heads, which I think is really so wonderful, and it's lovely to give kids time just to imagine. And so often, and I find with little kids when if you're cooped up in the house and they're grumpy, it's just like a miracle cure to take them outside, even if it's
Oh
pouring
yeah.
with rain. They turn from monsters into angels. And so there's that magical thing about the natural world, and particularly the beach, that just really unlocks their minds.
Oh yeah, I think that it's fascinating to watch it happen, and also such a joy. But
Mm,
then on top of allowing them to just kind of be and do those sort of things are just fantastic. And
yeah.
yeah, so with that kind of in mind, Rob, I'm just kind of really curious. This is a book that has impacted generations, as one that's celebrated over the years. I'd love to know what your process is to kind of honor the story and imagination of Allison's world as you partnered with all these various talented animators in bringing Magic Beach to life on the screen.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the big challenge for me was, this book is one of our most revered and successful children's books. It's a book I read to my kids when they were little, and we're meeting so many parents who had it read to them when they were little, who are now parents reading it to their own kids,
Exactly.
and trying to understand why it worked and not disrupting that. And I do think it comes down to this idea of imagination being triggered by the natural
Hmm.
world. And so rather than trying to copy what Allison did and just make a copy of it as a film, I invited these 10 animators to all embrace the spirit of Allison's book and show where their imagination would lead them, triggered by one of the little kids in the book
Right.
and experience on the beach. So I kind of tried to create a film that also invites young kids to watch it. There's documentary footage. They see other kids in their home. They see kids on this magical beach. They see children falling into these incredible animations. So to try to almost encourage young kids to watch the film and go on that creative journey themselves, as opposed to, forcing the story and telling them. And as Alison's always said, letting children fill in the blanks. They're highly creative. I mean, there was a 3-year-old at a screening the other day, and I was chatting to her beforehand, and I thought, you're one of the brightest people I know, and she was so excited to meet Alison, and had a great experience of the film, and talking to her family afterwards, had massive conversations about the film afterwards.
Sure.
So I think, we really take a great risk if we patronize young kids. I think
Mm.
they inspire a lot in me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm kind of curious just to jump off of there and start looking at it, because I mean this is a very different type of film for you. I mean, we look at The Dry, or you look at Paper Planes, and you're looking at working at somebody like Eric Bana or Sam Worthington, but then to go and work with these young children and getting them to do what they do. I mean, that must have been a very different experience for you in kind of as a director, but then on top of it, then to partner with these animators and kind of capturing that. How is that different for you as a filmmaker?
Oh, it's just so wonderful to work with young kids. We
Uh-huh.
had kids between 4 and 8 acting in the film, um, and joy it just brought, the crazy experience. We filmed on the actual Magic Beach and in Alison's house, which features in the book. And
Right.
every morning the kids would arrive and get into their costumes in Alison's house where Alison was staying. And she'd come out of the bedroom still in her pajamas, chat to the little kids, and you can see the dogs running around and they get ready and we take them down the beach. And Alison would like, I think if I've learned anything across my career, it's that the way you make a film gets infused into the DNA of it. So if you want to make a beautiful, gentle celebration of the beach for little young children, it needs to have joy in the making of it. So
Right.
it was that kind of process, and the kids just kept surprising me and inspiring me, and doing things. By the end of the film, they were all friends and having great adventures on the beach. And thankfully, we've captured that. We captured
Yeah.
that on screen.
I think you really
It
did. I
was.
mean, you could see that. Sorry. Go ahead, Allison. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say it was a very happy time, and I mean I'd never been involved in a film before, so I thought it was like that. But quite a few of the crew said at various times, "Oh, it's not normally like this." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I went, "No, no, this is just like a party. Everyone's having such a nice time."
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, actually,
Yeah.
that is kind of a stepping off point for me because I'm kind of curious, Allison, for you. I mean, this is a book that you've lived with for, decades. And so you know it, you love it, you've been able to share it with people around the Australia, but also around the world. But I'm curious for you in seeing, how this kind of all this the movie kind of unfolds, that how everything kind of going to cinema. What do you think that people will see as far as a different experience that they would get from the film or the movie than they said would be from your book?
Yeah, well, it is very different. I know a good friend of mine said, "Oh, it was nothing like your book." Like she was quite cross that it wasn't
Oh,
exactly
right.
the same as the book. But I mean, it's a different genre. Like I'm so happy just to do the book and then to pass it on to someone I trust to turn it into a movie. And I think the essence of it is really the same. It's kids at the beach having a beautiful time, and Robert's
Yeah.
done that so well.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you can see that. You can see the you've given it to him, but also it's still, I feel like it still captures the magic is what, of
Mm,
the book. You can see that in the film. Hopefully the film becomes as beloved as your book has, and I'm sure that it will over the years.
yeah.
And now I'm curious though too for you, because you've been working with children for years and for generations now. What has changed or not changed about children over the years, and especially on the imagination front, that you would really hope that people will be able to capture from either your book or the film that you may not have expected?
I think kids are just the same. Like I can be really tired, and I know I've got to sign books for an hour and a half. But that first family who comes up, as soon as I see those little faces and the expectation on them, I'm immediately energized and happy to see them. I just love that the joy of children and that the potential of them. I guess that when you're talking to little kids, you can kind of see that whole life stretching out before them, and it's a
Mm,
really beautiful thing to see and to be able to share a little bit of whatever I'm doing with them is amazing. Sometimes I've got a little shop in the country in Victoria, and sometimes people will drive their children down to meet me there. And
oh wow.
so, like, it's a big deal. It's like 2.5 hours from the city. And when they get there, sometimes these poor little kids are so overcome they can't speak. And, and the mothers will be going, "Go and tell Alison what you wanted to say." And they're just like, mm. So yeah, it is a great honor. I think, I think the big thing we worry about now is screens. That it's so easy for the kids to be looking at. The TV now seems like the most benign thing in the world, given that now they're looking at iPads and phones and all those
Right.
sorts of things. But I think you just have to keep really involved in your kids and know what they're playing and make sure they get plenty of downtime as well, where they're not on a screen.
Right.
I'm as
Yeah.
guilty as anyone. I spend way too much time on a screen.
I think we all do. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's one of those things that you really, and I think that that's what I love about a film like this, that it really kind of challenges us to be able to kind of go out and really connect with, all the creative things and be able to see the beach and be able to enjoy that, but then also have the imagination that goes forward.
Mm.
And before we kind of get to kind of the final question I was going to ask you too, Robert, when you're going to the animators, because again, kind of honoring the story, Allison's story, but going to the animators, it was, as Allison even brought up, very different as far as you see kind of all these different creative ways to be able to see that. What was the process of going to these animators and saying, go for it with this story or with this component or how that worked. I'm kind of curious because it all still works as one story, even though they're all very different.
Yeah, well, they're all inspired by the same book, I guess. So even though they're visually very different, there's something that connects them. But one of the things I was really keen to avoid doing was being too prescriptive. I
Right.
wanted to see these animators, and what they do, how creative they get. I mean, there's felt, there's one animation made with watermelon, there's stop mo, there's one that is painted oil painting on glass, there's another that's sketch. I mean, they're kind of sublime. And so interestingly, I felt as the director of the overarching feature that I needed to set them all free and encourage the 10 animators to kind of dig into their own childhoods to come up with,
Right.
the animations they did. And I was just delighted. I was delighted. Like every time they sent me something, I was like, wow, this is beyond anything I could ever have imagined. So I set it free, really.
Yeah.
Create.
Robert,
Well, and
do you
go
think?
ahead,
Oh,
Alison.
sorry. I was just going to say to Robert, do you think the fact that they did those animations during COVID influenced the way they did them? That
I
it must
think
have been such
so.
a beautiful thing to be able to do during that lockdown.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think the fact that we were able to go to these animators and say, people, highly creative people who were, unemployed really during that time, work
Mm,
was not getting made, and provide an opportunity for them to do it and to handcraft it. When a lot of them were trapped at home with their kids, or in one case with
sure.
the grandkids or their parents. So, like they're all, and so I think the fact that during that time these animations were created is a really interesting kind of response to what it was like and the sense of community and values and missing the beach.
Right.
One of the things about one of our animators got locked down in Colombia,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and his animation's all about a little girl that misses the beach.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we kind of hit towards the end of our time, so I want to kind of ask you one question that will be going to both of you. So I'd love to hear what you have to share about this. But what would you want? What do you hope audiences would take away from Magic Beach, the movie, as they kind of dive into these imaginative waves of animation and childhood? What would parents, grandparents, and also children hopefully be able to take away from that?
For me, it's just, it's the way the natural world inspires imagination and creativity.
Hmm.
And I'm not anti-technology in any way, shape, or form, but I do remember my childhood, th those moments and the dreams and the imagination that was inspired by the natural world. So the best thing that could happen for me is if parents maybe take their little ones to Magic Beach, even kids who've never been to the movies before, so
Right.
that this could be their first experience at the cinema, and
Yeah.
that then after the film they want to head to the beach and go for a swim.
That's perfect. Yes. And this is one of those films that I think is for all ages and they would be able to enjoy this. I think it's worthwhile considering. How about you, Allison?
Well, I've seen the movie a few times, and I always, at the end, I have this incredibly lovely feeling of being peaceful and happy. And so I hope it makes them feel the same way. I have to say that it's um, it's very hard to take a really little kid to a movie without them being scared at some stage. And
Mm,
this is definitely one of those movies that you can do that to. It's very gentle as well as being very beautiful and magical. So yeah, I think everyone's going to have that beautiful feeling.
well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alison Lester, the author of Magic Beach, and also director Robert Connolly, as we talked about going to the beach and heading to the Magic Beach out in cinemas across Australia this week. It's a perfect beach where you can swim, surf, splash through the waves, build sandcastles, beachcomb, explore rock pools, and muck around in the boats and build bonfires on the beach. It's an exciting place for your family to be able to go in live action and animation and enjoy an adventure at the beach in Australia. Thanks again. This is Russ Matthews with Real Dialogue at realdialogue.com.